Entertainment Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 8, and my thoughts on this episode. It wasn't a bad episode. I think there are good parts, mainly to do with Tendi and Rutherford. But the main story, it's not great, but I could bear it. I mean, it's not fantastic. And the parts that I actually liked was, this episode's pretty much shown that the writers of this show watch YouTube videos on the Star Trek criticism. Because every criticism is mentioned, well, not everyone, but most of the criticism of Kurtzman Trek, of J.J. Abrams Trek, it's all mentioned, well, at least a lot of it's mentioned in this episode, like MacGuffins, or a certain section, secret intelligence organization having their own badges was brought up. You know, all the ridiculous stuff that the new Star Trek has brought in to Star Trek. And they've kind of mentioned a lot of them in this episode, which I found funny. But there are problems. I didn't really like the main story. I don't think it's bad, but I think it could have been massively improved. But the episode was fine. Didn't piss me off. Again, there was enjoyable parts. And yeah, it's an okay episode. It's not fantastic, but if I'm going to give it out of 10, I'll give it a 5. 5, I'm being fair. 5 out of 10. It's an okay episode. It won't piss you off if you're a Star Trek fan. It takes the piss out of Star Trek movies. I'm not that bothered about that. I don't mind that. You know, if this show wasn't so bloody stupid, you know, and didn't just go over the top with breaking law, this show wouldn't be so bad to, you know, watch. Because again, there's a lot of things you can take the piss out of Star Trek for. I don't mind it. It's funny. But this show kind of tries to take itself too seriously in places. And now that it's canonized, as it's in the fucking lore because of what they're doing with the crossover with Strange New Worlds, kind of takes away all the enjoyment you could have had with the show. But well. So it's a 5 out of 10. Not a bad episode, not a great episode, but that's the best we're gonna get from fucking Lower Decks. So let's start with the spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So, episode starts off with the Romulans attacking the Cerritos, and the Cerritos calling for help, but then the captain deciding they need to abandon ship, and she doesn't want to give this order. And the Romulans then manage to board the Cerritos and steal a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin. And then the Romulans beam back to their ship, where we see 3 Romulan twin sisters. Now, what do you think that's copying in Star Trek? Oh, you mean the Klingon sisters. Aha. Listen, I mean, okay, this is blatantly copying them. I get it. You couldn't have done something a bit different. I mean, having triplets instead of twins. I don't think they were fucking twins either. They weren't twins. So why are these 3 triplets? Why do they look identical except for that stupid white hair? Anyway, so they steal the MacGuffin. They get ready to destroy the Cerritos. Captain tells everybody to abandon ship. Then a Sovereign class starship jumps in. Turns out it's Boimler who's in command of the ship. He shoots the fuck out of the Romulans and they retreat, but they've gotten what they want, and then they run away. And then it's pretty much shown to us that this is not real. This is a hollow program, because obviously they're not going to have Boimler in it as a captain and have Mariner as his second in command because, well, they're just not going to do that, are they? So he pauses the program because he gets a message from Ransom, Commander Ransom. So he leaves Mariner and the gang on the ship, in the program, tells it to reset because they're going to see a new story because this episode is a continuation of Crisis Point from season 1. Now, season 1 Crisis Point was actually not that bad. I even admitted that in my review from back then. So this is a continuation of it. Boimler's written a new story called Crisis Point 2 about the Romulans, and Mariner's kind of a bit annoyed because that's her writing, even though she nicked Boimler's program to do it. So technically Boimler's right in this episode when he says, yes, it's your story, but you did steal it from me. So there you go. Then Boimler goes to do his meeting with Ransom, comes back, and he's more depressed. And then we just see a shitload of other story references to other Star Trek films. So when Boimler takes his sovereign ship with the Cerritos to a science bay, the science bay looks identical to the Wrath of Khan science bay, with Kirk's girlfriend's or his son's research place. They're all wearing the same medical outfits, and this is when we find out about the object that was stolen from the Cerritos. Turns out it's a time machine, basically. It's a time crystal that they now need to chase down the Romulans for. They then figure out that the Romulans are going to sell it on the black market or something. So they head to a black market planet where you pretty much see Boimler is getting more and more depressed, and Mariner just moaning about Boimler being more and more depressed. Not asking what's wrong, just annoyed that he's not, fully in the game anymore. So they get to the planet where the black market planet. They walk through a street, and Boimler then sees this religious nutcase talking about something. Then he goes over to talk to that religious person, and Boimler's confused at why he's doing that when it's supposed to be doing the main story. And then Boimler gives command of the mission to Tendi. And Tendi's happy about this because there's a secret she's keeping, and she wants to try this out and be captain. So she agrees to take control of the mission. She's excited. They all grab some fucking hover bikes. They charge after the Romulans. But Boimler then stays with this religious person, asking a bunch of random questions. I want to get the Tendi stuff out of the way because I just want to get over this episode. So Tendi chases down the Romulans. She then destroys the Romulan transport by crashing a bike into the transport. She then captures... the Romulans then grab the time crystal, travel back in time. They then chase after them, where Tendi's taking this really dead seriously, but Rutherford couldn't give a fuck because it's supposed to be just a game for him. But Tendi's taking this massively seriously. So they go to a bunch of places. Tendi, tracks down the Romulans and finds out they're about to attack the signing of the creation of the Federation, with Archer signing the Declaration or whatever. And whilst Rutherford is, disabling a bomb, he's not taking it seriously. Tendi gets angry at him. He then disarms the bomb, and then Tendi's just pissed off at him. And then Rutherford asks, "Why are you so pissed off?" Because she wants to be captain one day. That's the big reveal. She wants to be captain of the Cerritos. Not the Cerritos, but wants to be captain. And she wanted to use this as a kind of testing ground to see if she's ready to take command of a ship. And then when Rutherford finds this out, he says, "Listen, this is just a game. Of course you'll make a great captain. Let's just have fun." And so Tendi then says, "Yes, I will, blah, 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 blah." So she restarts the program, goes back to the Cerritos, stops the Romulans by putting a bomb on their ship, blows them up, and yeah, there you go. That's the Tendi story. Again, I did like the Tendi story. I think she'd make a great captain. I think she is a good character. And I kind of wish we just had the episode about that, personally. Anyway, let's go to Boimler and Mariner. So Boimler has really gone crazy deep into this program, or this religious cult that he wants to now join. And Mariner's just getting more and more pissed off about it. Like, she wants to do the main mission. And then she makes the argument, and then she says, why are you ruining her... What's it called? Victim verse, or Vindicta verse. So, you know, I don't know. Apparently there's now a Vindicta verse that she wants to protect. Stupid name for it. So basically taking the piss out of the Snyder verse. Anyway, so they have this fight. And, you know, Boimler gets pissed at Mariner. Mariner gets pissed at Boimler. They call each other names and take shots at each other's programs. And then Mariner just says, fuck it, I'm just going to leave you to it because I can't be asked to deal with you right now. And she just leaves the holodeck and heads off to her interview with Ransom. And then Ransom pretty much tells her she's doing a good job, she's keeping her head down, she's not causing any trouble, so she's doing well in that department. Then she pretty much mentions that Boimler... Well, no, she doesn't mention that. Then Ransom mentions about Boimler and why he's so sad and why he's got to keep his friends close. Because we find out that Boimler is sad because he lost his clone. When his clone died in some random accident. And this is now... And now Boimler's having a midlife crisis or a fucking... You know, figuring out that he's not immortal, that one day he'll die. So that's why he's depressed. So Mariner feels bad. She goes back to the holodeck, trying to sort things out with Boimler. She goes back in there, finds Boimler in prison because the, you know, religious radicals turned on him. And they have a heart-to-heart with each other about the death of William, which was the clone. And throughout this episode, Mariner mentions like the criticism about like the crazy storylines, the MacGuffins, the plot contrivances, you know, pretty much what a lot of Star Trek reviewers have mentioned about, you know, Kurtzman Trek. So yeah, that's pretty much what she was saying mostly throughout this episode and throughout this scene with Boimler. So they get out of prison because of some random character. Not prison, out of the cell they were in. They then head to the bridge. Boimler then kicks the shit out of the leader of the religious group. And then they find the real map on this guy's back when they push skin together, because this guy had a lot of loose skin. So they push the skin together, they find the map, they head to the map, location of this all-knowing god that these religious radicals want to find. They get there, Boimler asks the question, what's the meaning of life, to this mountain god thing, and then it turns out it's just a program that's just going to say a bunch of words to you. A bunch of inspiring words, basically. That's not enough for Boimler, so Boimler just ends up breaking into the rock, climbing in and pretty much falling unconscious. And then he wakes up on Kirk's ranch, where we are supposed to expect to see Kirk, but we see Sulu. And then Boimler says the most dumbest thing, like, he'd rather speak to Sulu than to Kirk. Nobody said that. Nobody has. You'd want to talk to the captain. Okay, the captain is Kirk, not Sulu. No offense to Sulu, it's just Kirk is a better fucking character. So Boimler asks Sulu about the meaning of life. Sulu manages to get through to him and says, yeah, life's not meaningless. You make every day special. Yes, you could die at any point of your life, but make now, special. Don't just live in the past. Just a bunch of stuff, to give Boimler confidence back into himself. And so it helps Boimler. He now doesn't fear death, or at least accepts that, yes, you can die anytime. Just make now better, make now special. And then he wakes up in the med bay, where it turns out he was just in a coma, and this was just him dreaming something, but he doesn't really care because it helped him get over what he was kind of worried about, which was, dying a meaningless death, and just make sure that he, betters himself. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention at this point because I was kind of bored. So the gang get back together. Tendi and Rutherford pretty much praise Boimler on his characters and his story, and Mariner just, makes sure that he's alright. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Mariner just makes sure Boimler's okay, he's okay, and the episode ends. And then they both say they hate it when shows or films end on a cliffhanger, and then this episode ends on a cliffhanger, which is William the clone didn't actually die. He actually faked his death because he's now joining Section 31. And then when the Section 31 agent gives him a Section 31 badge, they then bring up the criticism about why the fuck does a secret organisation need to have badges? Wouldn't anybody know? Why would anybody know about them, especially when they're a secret organisation? So it's they definitely watch Nerdrotic stuff. I mean, that was clear. That was massively clear. And probably Doomcock as well. Because them two did bring up the fact a secret organisation that has fucking badges. And everybody knows what those badges are. So how the fuck is Section 31 so secret if everybody knows what those fucking badges mean? That's a massive problem from Season 2 of Discovery. Because how the fuck does a secret organisation have badges? It's so fucking dumb, that season. Luckily for me, I didn't watch it. I just watched the final episode and the first 2 episodes. But still, that is a dumb fucking thing for them to have in Star Trek history now. The fact that Section 31 is not that fucking secret. And then the episode ends with William doing an evil laugh, and now he's in Section 31. And that's the end of the episode. Again, there's good bits to this episode. Tendi's part was good. I did like the, not accepting, at least bringing up the criticism of Star Trek. And yeah, it's not a bad episode. A 5 out of 10, that's okay for me. If you haven't watched this episode, I mean, you don't have to watch it, but I'd give it a shot if you like to at least hear what they said about the criticism they get. And that's the end of my review. If you like this video, give it a like. If you dislike this video, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.